Hello, everybody. Hello. What happened there? Man, cut, take two. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. Are you ready for another week? Man, I'm ready. Here we go. Another week of learning on the computer. Man, oh man. Well, let's just get to it. I think, I just want to say, thank you for everyone who's getting stuff into me. I really appreciate that. Um, Things are being graded and posted and everything like that. So hopefully you guys are seeing that. Let me, sorry, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. So just want to be sure that before we begin in earnest that we understand too that the expectation is that during these presentations you guys are taking the proper notes. Okay. That's very important. You don't have to write everything down word for word. In fact, you shouldn't do that. But we definitely want to, be keeping track of the important stuff. And, you have to submit the notes to me on Google Classroom. You can do that through a Google Doc or taking paper notes and then taking a picture of it and uploading it, or taking paper notes and scanning it and uploading it, whatever works for you. It's just so I can keep track of who is attending these classes, who is participating, who's putting forth their best effort, and also so when it comes time for a quiz that we will be prepared. And there's a quiz coming up soon. There's this lesson on the Renaissance, and then we'll probably do one more lesson on the Renaissance, and then we'll have a quiz on the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. So that will be our second quiz. So far, the grades that we have are the Pop Song Analysis Project, Quiz 1, that was last week or the week before, and then this one coming up. I'll give you the date on that soon. Okay, so let's move on here. Let's push forward, talking about the Renaissance, a great period of art and music. Renaissance, of course, literally meaning rebirth. And by rebirth, what do we mean? Well, what we mean is that a kind of upgrade, I guess, for lack of a better word, in art, music, culture, things like that. So let's go on here. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to highlight all of these composers. Not all of them today, but we will do two of them today, though. We're going to talk about composers like Josquin des Prez, Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. Okay, you could just call him Palestrina. All his friends do. John Dallin, William Byrd, and Claudio Monteverdi. All very important in their own right. Josquin and Palestrina are known mainly as composers of religious music, although at least Josquin also wrote some secular music as well, but they were employed by the church, both of them were, as musicians and composers, and that's where the bulk of their work goes. John Dallin is an English composer from the Renaissance, and he wrote exclusively secular music. Okay, so he wrote a lot of love songs and things like that. He was kind of like the Justin Bieber of his time. Oh man, I hate when people do that, right? He was like I don't know who's popular. He was kind of like the Billie Eilish of his day. You know what I mean? Ugh. Okay. Anyway, uh, William Byrd did both religious and secular music. I guess he was mostly known for his religious music. And then Claudio Monteverdi, again, did both religious and secular music, and he was probably known more for his secular music. Um, and I like to end with Monteverdi because he's a composer. He's like a good transition composer into the next period, which is the Baroque period. So Monteverdi is a guy who kind of has a foot in the Renaissance world and a foot in the early Baroque world. and he's a good transition guy before we move into the Baroque period. Okay, so. But anyway, moving on, we're going to go to France now. Let's get in our time machine and go to France during the Renaissance, and we are going to meet Josquin des Près. He was born in or around 1450, circa 1450. You'll see this sometimes when we go way back. They did not keep as good of a record of births back in the day. So through the documentation that they did keep, and then plus other sources like enrollment and certain things, like we can kind of approximate their birth date, and then of course we know for sure their death date. So around 1450, or sometimes there's like conflicting documentation, right? So I think for Josquin, actually, there's some documentation that say he was born in 1550, and there's other documentation that suggests that he might have been born in 1555. See, it was a little bit complicated back then, but either way, circa 1450, he died in 1521. He was born in France. He was another French guy. We kept talking about these French guys, folks. A lot of French people. It's okay. I took my ancestry DNA says I'm 8% French, so we're good. We're good. Oui. But anyway, he was born in France, and he worked in France for part of his life, but also Milan, which is in Italy, and Rome, which of course is also in Italy as well. And he worked as a musician, as actually a singer in the choir in some churches in Milan and Rome, and then also as a composer for these as well. He wrote in various genres, both religious and secular. He has many mass settings of the mass, okay? Motets, which we learned last time, are short pieces of religious polyphony. And he also wrote some French chansons, which in French, chanson means song, but this was also a genre of music, the French chanson. It was a genre in and of itself, and these were secular songs, and he wrote a lot of those as well. His most famous work by far is a piece called Ave Maria Virgo Serena, and that's the one I linked below. Take a listen to that. Now, it might be, I'm not saying you have to do this, but it might be a good idea to go back and listen to Machaut and Dufay from last class, and then compare it to this piece by Josquin. And what you'll see is that in just the short amount of time, now Josquin is early Middle Ages here, right? It's, you know, the Middle Ages has only, the Renaissance has only been going on for, you know, 50 to 100 years. And take a look at the big difference here in compositional style, in harmony. Listen to how much more advanced the harmony is. And also just listen to the sheer beauty here, the consonants, the beautiful harmonies and sounds that are created here through just the human voice. Okay. Is there anything else I want to say about this piece? It's one of my favorite pieces of music. It's really a beautiful piece. Take a listen for what you'll notice is that in the beginning the piece is completely staggered. So it's almost like if you remember back to 6th grade, canons and rounds and fugues and things like that. It starts kind of like that with some imitation that's staggered in each voice, and then all 4 voices are just mixing and coming in and coming out, and there's all this different stuff going on at one time, and then in the middle somewhere, all of a sudden, it's everyone's together with this beautiful harmony, and it's a beautiful moment in the piece. So take a listen to the whole piece. It's really great. Ave Maria Virgo Serena. All right, so that's what we need to know about Josquin des Près. All right, next up, We're talking about the man, the main man. If there's one name that you remember from the Renaissance, it should probably be Giovanni da Palestrina. I left out one of his names. Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. He was born circa around the year 1525 and died in the year 1594. He was born in it's a small city in Italy called Palestrina, right? Giovanni da Palestrina literally means Giovanni of Palestrina. So that was how people were named back then, surnames in different cultures, by surname I mean your last name. They've come about in interesting ways over the years. This doesn't really have to do with anything in particular. This is just kind of an interesting aside. So like for my name, for example, my last name, DeJoseph, that's an Americanized version. For centuries, my last name was Di Giuseppe, which is an Italian name. My grandfather changed it after World War II to the American sounding DeJoseph. And but that's how people were known. You were known because who were you? Well, you were whoever you were, and you were the son of Joseph or the daughter of Joseph. So your literal name would be, your name, son of whoever your father was, right? So that's how people were known, or sometimes they were known by their profession, right? You guys have heard of this, right? If your last name is Smith, chances are you had an ancestor way back when who was like a blacksmith or something like that. And sometimes you were named after the town you were born in, okay? So if you were traveling, Giovanni, which in Italian means John, someone would say, "Hey, did you meet that new guy, John?" "Oh yeah, which one?" "Well, John from Palestrina," and that's how that became your name. Okay, so but that's how he got his name. Arguably the most important composer of the Renaissance. I know that's a big claim to make, but it actually is true, and we'll get into why. He's mainly known for his masses and motets. I've never heard a secular piece by Palestrina. I guess it's possible he wrote some, but I've never heard of them. Masses and motets, those were his speciality, especially his masses. Beautiful settings of the mass. They are considered to be some of the masterpieces of the era. Okay? And now, this is just an interesting note here. So, some of the greatest composers of all time, we're talking guys like Mozart, Beethoven, right? Giant names in the history of classical music. When they were learning to write music, they all learned from the same textbook. The textbook was called the Gradus ad Parnassum, and it was compiled by a man by the name of Johann Joseph Fuchs. His name is Fuchs, folks. I don't want to hear anything different. And Johann Fuchs wrote this guide to this text of how to compose music, and all the great composers from the 17th and 18th centuries were, and even into the 19th century. Even today, some people still use it. They were using this text, this Gradus ad Parnassum, and where did Fuchs get it from? Well, Fuchs himself admits that he simply codified the method of composition that was being used by Palestrina. So, in a roundabout way, Mozart and Beethoven and all these great people learned how to write music from following the methods that were kind of passed down through Palestrina. So that's how big he was, okay? He is said to have saved polyphony, the king of polyphony, and the savior of polyphony, I guess you could say. He was said to have done this at the Council of Trent during the Counter-Reformation. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson here um, about what was going on during this time. Okay, I'm going to try to leave. I mean, I could talk about this stuff for for a very long time. I'm going to try to give you just kind of like the Reader's Digest version of it. If you're interested in any of this, you can, kind of do your own research into it. But so I'm just saying that full disclosure now that I'm leaving a lot of stuff. I'm going to be leaving a lot of stuff out. Okay, so I'm trying to paint a full picture for you, but do so um, in a way that's not going to be too complex and have to talk about a lot of stuff that is, not the subject for this class. But some of it is important to know for the history aspect. So, uh, 1517. This is, almost 10 years before Palestrina was born. There is 8 years to be precise, I guess, right? There's an event that occurs, and it's known as the Protestant Reformation. Maybe you've heard of this. Protestant Reformation occurred. There was a Catholic priest named Martin Luther in Germany who was opposed to some of the perceived corruption that was going on in the church, particularly this what was going on as far as the sale of indulgences. Again, I don't want to go, explain what indulgences are, but needless to say, there was some issues with that, kind of unethical things that were going on in the church. And Martin Luther was rightly pointing these things out. And there's this, kind of this moment that's been dramatized over the years of his nailing of his 95 theses to the wall, the door of the cathedral. And basically, these were 95 points of 95 issues that he had that needed to be addressed. And things went back and forth. Some things were said, some things maybe not so nice were said, maybe from both sides, and then what ended up happening is that Martin Luther broke away from the Catholic Church and started his own church called the Lutheran Church. Okay, this was a big moment, and depending on who you talk to, some people would say this was a great moment. Some people would say this is not a great moment because it led to a lot of instability and uncertainty throughout Europe. But regardless of where you fall, this was a major, major turning point. About 5 million people in total left the Catholic Church because of the Protestant Reformation. And wars were fought over this, right? And there were, kind of bad stuff done on both sides. But that was done. Now, why is this important to us, and why is this important to Palestrina? Well, one of the issues that Martin Luther had with the Catholic Church had to do with music. So Martin Luther did not like polyphony. Why didn't he like polyphony? He didn't like polyphony because it was hard to understand. It was hard to understand for two reasons. Number one, it was in Latin, and Martin Luther was German. So he goes, I speak German. I don't speak Latin. He probably said this in German. I don't speak Latin. I speak German. So why am I singing in Latin? I can't understand what it says. And the other reason is because even if it were in German, he still couldn't understand what it says because in polyphony you have multiple voices singing the text at different times. It can be hard to parse out the text in polyphony. So he goes, so in his mind, in order for the people who are at church to be able to fully understand the music, it should be in the vernacular language. So in other words, if you're German, the music should be in German. If you're French, the music should be in French. If you're Italian, the music should be in Italian. and whatever else. So there's that aspect. And the other aspect is that everything should be in unison. Okay, everything should be in unison so that people can sing it together. And it shouldn't be so complex that you need to be a trained professional musician to be able to sing it, right? That was another issue we had with it. Some of the polyphony was so complex that no one, unless you were a trained professional, could sing it. So he wanted it to be simple so everyone could sing it. He wanted it to be in the vernacular language, and he wanted to be all in unison so that everyone could understand and participate. Okay? So that's 1517. Decades go by, and the church has called a council. The church has done this many times over the years when certain issues need addressing. Now, 5 million people leaving the church is a big deal, especially back then when the populations were much smaller. So this needed to be addressed. So they called a council in the city of Trento, Italia, or we would just say Trent. And the Council of Trent was convened by different bishops and cardinals in the church, and they had to talk about how the church was going to respond to Lutheranism and the other Protestant denominations that had popped up since Luther. How are they going to deal with some of the things that were going on? Okay, well, they had to address a large number of things, but one of the things they had to address was in regards to music, and there was a discussion about what should we do with polyphony. Should we keep it? Should it stay or should it go? Right? Just like the Clash said, should it stay or should it go now? Well, now what I'm about to say is legend. In other words, there's not verifiable proof that this happened, and a lot of people believe that this didn't happen, but I wasn't there, so I can't say for sure. But the legend goes is that the bishops and the cardinals and everyone had decided that maybe polyphony should, maybe Martin Luther's got a point. Maybe we should get rid of the polyphony. And the pro-polyphony people were, disheartened by this, but what they got was they got Palestrina. And Palestrina had just finished a mass, a setting of the mass, dedicated to the great Pape Marcelli, Pope Marcellus, who was the Pope at the time. And he called it the Missa Pape Marcelli, the mass for Pope Marcellus. And it is said that they got in this, imagine being in this hall with all these bishops and cardinals and stuff, and they're just, I want to get rid of polyphony. Okay. And he got a choir in there, and they sang the Pope Marcellus Mass. And it was said, this is legend, I don't know, I wasn't there, I can't say if this is true for sure. It was so beautiful that everyone who was against the polyphony going away, or everyone who was against polyphony at the council, they changed their mind. They were moved by the sheer beauty of this mass. Okay, so that's below too. Take a listen to that. You don't have to listen to the whole thing. It's it's like 40 minutes worth of music, but maybe listen to the first 5 minutes, maybe, or as much of it as you can, because it you can't, in my opinion, you can't deny it is a beautiful, beautiful piece of music. Just simply transcendent, amazing what the human voice is capable of. And again, it's all a cappella. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And also below, I've also linked the probably Martin Luther, who wrote some of his own hymns for his Lutheran church. This is arguably his most well-known hymn that he wrote, called Eine feiste Berg unser Gott. Okay, or in English we would say, a mighty fortress is our God. Okay, that's probably his most well-known hymn. And the version I'm going to post below is, you'll see it's in the original notation that Martin Luther wrote, and you'll hear it's in the original German, and you'll hear kind of how it was meant to go back in those days, back in the 16th century. Okay. All righty, let's keep going. I think we're just about done. All right, so what are you going to do now? You are going to post your notes. Well, first of all, you know, I should have said this in the beginning. You can, the good thing about having this as a recorded video is that if you don't, excuse me, if you don't get something, if I'm talking too fast, if I say something that you don't understand, you can pause, go back, fast forward. You can do whatever you want, you know, with this video, and you can, anything that you miss, you can go back and get, you know. A normal class, you couldn't do that. So this is one of the advantages of that. So submit your notes, okay? And then office hours. I said I was going to make an announcement about office hours. So, oh, I made the announcement already. I already posted it on Google Classroom, so you can see what that is. So today, well, you guys are going to be watching this video on different days, so I don't want to give day-specific stuff. But this week, office hours have changed. They had been every day, Monday through Friday, 1:30 p.m. to 2:15 p.m. But in order to accommodate live sessions, I think it's so important. A lot of you guys have done live sessions. Probably all of you have done at least one. I think it's so important to see each other face to face. And so what I've decided to do is I've decided to devote one day each week to one of my different courses that I teach. So you guys are in 7th grade, so that means you are going to, your day is going to be Tuesdays. So every Tuesday from 1:30 to 2 p.m. I will be live on Google Meet, Google Hangout, whatever. I'll post the link in the Google Classroom before I go live, and you can, if you have a question, if you have a comment, if there's something that's difficult, if you need some extra help, or if you just want to say hello, you know, maybe we can get on with a few of us and just kind of shoot the breeze, you know. It's you know, I think these days, you know, as we get farther into this remote learning thing, I think, you know, at first maybe it was interesting, and it was like, oh, this is, I don't want to say it was fun, but you know, it's kind of new, so maybe it's a little exciting. But as we go through here weeks and weeks and weeks now, maybe it's getting less fun, you know. I think it's okay to feel that way. So if that's you, and you know, you're feeling, you know, like you just want to say hi, then you can pop on in and just say hi. I'd like to see you guys again. It's been a while. It's been a while, so I'd like to see you guys again, and maybe if there's a few of us in there, we can, you know, have a conversation, and it doesn't even have to be about music. It can be, you know, obviously we're a music class, and I'm sure you guys have some questions, and I'm happy to answer them. But if you just want to just have like a chill stream, we can do that too. All right. So any questions, let me know. And of course, you could always feel free to ask me questions in the ways that you have been asking them, either through email or through posting on the Google Classroom stream, or by posting a private comment. I'll still, of course, respond to your questions that way as well, but this is how we're going to be doing office hours from now on. So every Tuesday, 1:30 to 2 p.m. You don't have to stay on for the whole time. You can come late, you can leave early, whatever. I'm here. Hope you're doing well. Hang in there, folks. Remember, we don't know when this is going to end, but we do know one thing. It's not going to last forever. The rain's falling down hard, but it can't rain forever. Okay? There's light at the end of this tunnel. Just stay strong, stay positive, hit some weights. I've been lifting some weights in the gym, in the garage gym. That's the other thing. That's the other thing, folks. The gyms are closed, but Mr. DeJoseph's Iron Paradise is always open. We're open for business, baby. All right, folks. I think the bell rang like 10 minutes ago, whatever. Submit your notes. There's a quiz coming up soon. I'll give you that date very shortly. And have a good one.